Hit it, Phil. Can it be the breeze that fills the trees with rare and magic perfume? Oh, no, it isn't the breeze. It's Jackson time. La, da, da, da.
Well, Joe, again, this is Buck Benny speaking. I am joined by my friend Zach Eastman here, and Zach, your podcast is again. Say it again for me.
Yesteryear Ballyhoo Review.
Thank you.
Period. Exclamation point, question mark. Yes, that is
and
it.
He goes through and wonderfully reviews movies that, and I was sitting on one of them, which was a lot of fun to do that one, and we'll have to do another one sooner or later. But
that's already in the works, I think, from one of our last combos.
Yeah.
I can tell you who's going to be on it in a very short order in the next week or so. So already have landed, but the great Keith Scott. I sat down with him on Friday over Zoom to talk about his lovely book about cartoon voices of the golden age. And
fun.
Considering how many of these lovely voice artists we talk about on this particular program, if you haven't gotten that book, you need to get that book, because I opened it up, and much like the Robert Bader Marx Brothers book, or even Kathy's Benny book, I opened it up and I'm like, there's too much to unpack. What do I do? Like, how do I retain all this? So it's there's actually a lot of I could tell you guys this, because like I was looking through the book and I found another Jack cartoon that I wasn't expecting to find, and it is on YouTube from Columbia in Screen Gems. It's called The Big Bird Cast, and it comes out a year later than The Feud. So it has a Jack Benny caricature as a bird playing the violin, and then a worm comes out that's supposed to be Fred Allen and plays the bee, and then a bunch of bees go after him. It's one of a couple of other ones, but like I shared it with Laura, and she's like, I haven't seen this before, and I'm like, I didn't know this was a thing. Yeah. So it shows you that Keith's book has found this wonderful pocket of like the voice actors that were doing these things, and he's able to track down pretty much everybody who's done them. And when I say everyone, I mean, like, you know, he reminded me of B. Benaderet doing one of the most obnoxious but greatest voices on in Looney Tunes history, which is Little Red Riding Hood. The Cass Daly impression. But yeah, so that and an episode on the Jazz Singer with Laura is coming up very soon. So
very cool.
Cool.
Well, and then we've got one of the great voices of all time in this episode, Humphrey Bogart, which it's really cool to have him on here. So that's going to be our focus today. But let's go around the rest of the horn here, and let's hop over there to Terry. Terry, you've got your newest episode that came out, and I predicted they were going to get longer and longer as time went on. And this is your longest episode yet, 40 minutes.
I believe so. Yeah, cool. Almost 40 minutes.
Yeah. So what is kind of, can you give us, like, is this like it more in the science? Sometimes they're more in the science fiction realm, sometimes more fantasy, sometimes they're Western. What genre is this one kind of?
Yeah, this is another mashup of fantasy, science fiction, and social commentary. It's called The Woke Detective.
Oh, very cool.
There's a little time travel involved, not too heavy-handed, not like the earlier one where it was, you know, there was the machine and planning and so forth. This is a little more subtle than that. And I went for the noir genre as the approach to the story. I was very, very fortunate to have Bill Jones come back and play the detective. It was a tour de force for him. He must have been in the studio for, well, I know he was in there for hours to pull this off. And we had a lot of other familiar voices, and as we often do, one new voice, another veteran performer. And so I'm really, really pleased with the way this one turned out. There was a lot of music in this one too, which made me happy. And so that was available. It came out just a week ago.
Nice. Yay. So catch up with his new one, and that's over on Imagine Air Theater. You can just type Imagine Air Theater in your browser. You'll kick into and find it. And all 10 are worth listening to, all 10 episodes for sure. And most of them are only your 15, 20 minutes long or something.
Yeah.
So it's a nice, easy listen. This is one of the longer ones, but that's great. So, Kathy, over to you. Kathy, where are we at with volume 3? I don't really ask this for the listeners or anything. I ask this more for me and wanting to read more Jack Benny scripts. So where are we on the third volume of the Jack Benny script book, and what are we thinking it might be coming out?
Hopefully I'll be submitting the manuscript in about February, once the publisher's Christmas rush is through. And volume 3 will cover, it's one of the most dramatic kerfuffles Jack and Mary and Harry Conn were ever involved in, because this is when very abruptly Canada Dry, his first sponsor, and the ad agency NW Ayer and Sons take control of they grab control of the show away from Jack. They claim they don't like his humor very much. They hire a new comedy writer, Sid Silvers, who's actually a longtime friend and colleague of Jack's, but they hire Sid Silvers as a new writer, and they impose a new structure on the show, that it's going to be a continuing story about a Broadway producer and his obnoxious male sidekick. They switch networks to CBS and whole different days and times. And so it's a complete remake of the show. And Jack and Harry and Mary are horrified. And so they really stand up for themselves. They go marching back to NBC, because which had been so helpful and welcoming. They threat to quit the show entirely because they're losing everything. They have to get a whole new band leader.
It's not even their show at that point. It's not
exactly. And so it's fascinating what you can because we don't have these shows, to see what of it shows up in the scripts and what I could deduce is happening behind the scenes. But for a couple of the scripts, it's very interesting and very strange.
Okay.
And so we'll see that, but they gain control of the show again.
So do they actually do that in the scripts, or did they was that all behind the scenes and you just get hints of it in the scripts?
So we get a couple shows that are in this new odd format, and it's twice a week still. And but then Jack says, "Oh, we're back. Remember how the show used to be? We're back to what we did before."
This is the new Coke of Jack Benny stories. Everybody trying to push that new Coke and go like, "But everybody like classic."
So what amazing things happen. Mary takes a much larger role in the show than Ethel Chute. Mary had really been the sort of timid sidekick, playing an 18-year-old girl.
Right.
When George Olsen and Ethel Chute were the experienced cast members, now she's thrust into the role of being Jack's main annoyer and really co-partner, and she really starts to shine. You can see just the role growing and her importance growing. And just as when you said, Daryl, that you really enjoyed Mary, this is a really a move that you can see in the way that their publicity works in the mid-30s. That
you don't have to sell me on the book. I was going to get it anyway, but now I really want to get it. It's right in my wheelhouse with Mary getting a bigger and bigger part.
Yeah. So
awesome.
it's going to be fascinating, but it ends abruptly because the sponsor has the last word, and at their next 13-week renewal, they go bye-bye. And Canada Dry leaves radio for a number of years, but it's a huge shock to Jack and Mary because they've been fired mid-season.
Right.
And it's like, oh, what
and
do
this
we do?
And this book will have just those episodes, or does it go into the ones that follow after that? So it'll be encapsulate all of that. Okay.
Right. Yeah. No, that'll be volume 4. So.
That's awesome. And then who takes over 4? Is that General Tire?
Well, no, it's Chevrolet, which Jack would never want to talk. He'll never mention their name again because
they didn't give him a Chevrolet.
Well, there you go. He liked Packards too much. Chevrolet had a big fight with Al Jolson. They had been sponsoring Jolson, and Jolson had at this point a gigantic ego, and he just walks off the show. But it's the middle of the the bank holiday. It is amazing, the collapse of the American economy and Roosevelt's inauguration all rolled into one. So that's when Jack and Mary get back on the air the day after Roosevelt's inauguration in early March 1933. But as I said, Chevrolet's about to go bankrupt, and they don't know if they can continue to pay for a show. The ads are fascinating, the shows are fascinating, but what happens is about 6 to 9 months later, they get a new president of the Chevrolet Corporation who likes polkas. He likes and he says, I don't like humor, and he fires Benny. And
wow.
And so humiliation.
We have got to. I think we need to sit down between now and the Jack Benny convention and have like an interview with you that covers where your books have gone so far quickly, but then gets into what this third volume is going to be and all the stuff that you're talking about now. Because I mean, it's so interesting, and we have so little knowledge of that. I mean, because we've got some pretty big Jack Benny fans in this room right now. And I think both Zach and I have been completely surprised by some of the things you've said and weren't expecting all of this. So
I forgot about the polka store. I forgot about the polka element until you brought it up. And I'm like, now I want Weird Al's opinion on this.
There you
but
go.
I'll tell you what, I'm going to go ahead. I was just going to say, I'm going to jump on this, this Jolson mention. I never mentioned my podcast on here very much and things, but I got to tell you, I am so proud of this one that I've been doing, and just how delightful it is and how well these shows work together. From 75 years ago this year, from 1947, the 47-48 season, I'm bringing you the 47-48 season of the Bing Crosby show. And the sound is just amazing, but all my Bing Crosbys are always great sounding. But I found the Al Jolson show in beautiful sound from the same time frame, the Kraft Theater. And what he did was, Jolson was just off of his movie that was about his life, and it was hugely successful. So it reignited his career. So they grabbed him and put him on the show along with Oscar Levant, who I love Oscar Levant, piano playing and his humor. And it just works so well. And to have these shows in just sparkling sound, it sounds like you're in the room with them as they're recording it. And then we end the night usually with a Jimmy Durante's show from the exact same year. And and what's funny is they're all from the same, they were released, I think 2 of them came out on one day and the next show would be like on the next day. So they're always like right in the same time frame. And so a lot of times the jokes they're making show up on all 3 shows if it's a timely joke about the administration or something going on. So it's a really fun listen. And all the shows are similar enough and yet different enough that you can enjoy the whole hour and a half that you're spending with these guys. And they appear on each other's shows. So like next week's, as we record this, this is early in December of 22. And the next show I'm going to present is going to have Jolson appearing on Bing's show, and then Jolson's on his own show, and Durante was on Bing's, and I think Bing's was on Jolson's. I mean, they appear on each other's shows left and right anyway. So they tie together so well. And just a wonderful listen. And it's so strange to listen to 3 shows in a row and not have a bunch of pops or clicks or sound that's where you go, what did he say? Where everything's just clear. It's just a wonderful thing. So we present it every Monday on my Jack Benny podcast. I originally was putting on the Judy Garland podcast, but the Jack Benny one gets more listeners. And I just thought, no, I want to make this so more people can hear this. So, because it's that good. Anyway, so tune in and listen to that. But let's get on to our presentation. This is a wonderful episode with Humphrey Bogart in it. I just love it. I love the fact that Bob Crosby does a fun job in this episode. I love seeing Bob Crosby. Bob Crosby was in 12 of Jack's shows, I believe, is what I looked up. And so generally the early ones, he was in like one season after Jack left the radio show behind, and then he wouldn't be on again, except for one strange episode that they held back because of legal issues until years later, and he was on that one too. But it was recorded at this time frame. Anyway, let's go around the horn and see what people think of this episode, what they want to point out. We'll go to Kathy first. Kathy, what are your thoughts on the episode?
Well, again, I love that this one is so connected to Jack's radio days, and talks about the importance of the sponsor and the sponsor's control of the show, because it's easy for us to think about TV later where it was the networks in charge of the show and there weren't sponsors but only commercials. So I thought that was really interesting and fun. It feels like early television. It has those elements of liveness in Jack's beginning that are kind of fun. And as well as Humphrey Bogart makes his first television appearance on this show. As we said, this is followed just a few weeks earlier by Marilyn Monroe's first television appearance on Jack's show, which just sort of demonstrates both the high regard that big Hollywood stars had for Jack, knowing that, oh, television is this low medium. I'm not, gonna look,
And studios wouldn't let their talent on there either. MGM was notorious for that. Yeah,
exactly. But the stars could trust Jack to know that the same way he'd always been doing it on the radio, that he made his stars shine. He made them funny. He put them to good advantage. And what he does here with Humphrey Bogart is, I bet they were friends off screen, because they have many connections not connected with the radio show. But Humphrey allows himself to play this really sort of comic role that's unusual and fun. So.
Well, and I wish they would have had Lauren Bacall come on too, but I think that was asking too much. But so often when Bogey would appear on radio, it would be with Lauren Bacall with him, and they would do radio shows together. I know they did Jack's show at least once with both of them, and then they also did a Bing Crosby at least once with both of them on there. And she is so funny because she can play off of Bogey and play off of the host and do. They usually play with the whole jealous thing and about the host being attracted to her and how's that affect Bogey or not affect Bogey. Like sometimes it's like Bogey doesn't even care because he's so suave and so cool that he doesn't even have to bother with this little gnat that's flying around. But those are just fun to listen to. But this is, like we say, just a great get to be able to get Humphrey Bogart at this point in time, so early in television.
Yeah, and one other quick, because I have a review and I'd like to read it in a little bit
later. Yeah, for sure.
But one quick thing: the announcer for Lucky Strikes in this episode with the little mustache is Ed Thorgerson. Ed was the announcer on Jack's very first radio show in May 1932, and one of the first jokes Jack ever made was, he says, I need to tell the radio audience about our announcer. Ed Thorgerson looks like he swallowed all of Mickey Mouse but his tail. And so after all these years, to have Ed back is just, again, collapsing time. Yeah. So
well, that's why I love having you on here so much, Kathy, because you bring us that insight that we wouldn't get otherwise. And what a wonderful pullback to way back when. Yeah, let's switch over to Terry and see what Terry thought of the episode and what he pulled out.
Well, I especially like the ending where Humphrey Bogart and Ingrid Bergman are at the airport, and Claude Rains is there, and Paul Henreid is waiting for her to join him.
Who would think they could get all those stars on this show? But yeah, amazing.
He surprises her by telling her that she's going to go with her
I
husband.
thought it was very surprising that Eddie Rochester Anderson shot Major Strasser. I thought that was a very big twist. I wasn't expecting it.
The perfect ending. And then, when he said it looks like this is going to be the beginning of a beautiful.
If Dooley Wilson shot Conrad Veidt at the end of that movie, I think I'd lose my mind with just joy.
But the problems of you and I, Terry, don't add up to a hill of beans in this great big world of art. I don't know.
I will say one thing. I was shocked that there was gambling going on. I just did not expect that. There's one actor who I do want to seriously identify in this episode. His name is Fred Graham. Now, there was a CBS News, I think it was CBS, court reporter named Fred Graham, not the same guy. Fred Graham plays the tall detective in this episode, and he started out his career as a baseball player and became a stuntman. And so he didn't have a lot of other acting chops, but he certainly had a long career in show business. And I don't know why Jack or whoever cast him in this episode, but it was kind of cool to see him.
Probably somebody knew him. Something, yeah, huh? Well, Zach, what did you think of this episode? What's stood out to you?
I mean, like it's fun to watch Jack bring Bogey back in a comedy sense. When one of the first times Bogey was on Jack's show was to promote All Through the Night, and they bring him into a Captain O'Benny sketch where they make him Captain O'Bogart. To have him come back and do a little bit more gangster / detective work is really fun. I look at this as an interesting stopgap for Bogart because he only does really 2 television things. It's this and then the Producer's Showcase where he recreates the role of Duke Van T from The Petrified Forest. So watching Bogey play with the medium of television is, we only have those 2 examples. And I do find it fascinating how, had he lived a little longer, I wonder if some kind of a detective show might have gotten him, or even Untouchables might have had him on as a guest at one point. But it is wonderful to watch him play with the live medium. He's rarely breaking. Nothing's really giving him an excuse to move from that character. I think the slapping game is amazing because you can tell that they're not slapping each other, but I believe that they're slapping each other. And I do love the tall man gag where they're like, "Where'd you pick this up?" And then you have Betty Rubin go like, "I picked him up over in the Bowery." Like that's a fun gag for me. But on the whole, it is one of those, like, this is one that I would rewatch a lot when it was on that like Genius whatever DVD set that came out like back in 2004 or 5. It was one that I would rewatch constantly because I loved Bogart. And it is very funny when he makes his one phone call about making sure that his house is in order. That's a fun gag about using your one phone call to check in on your laundry. Like that's a funny gag. So yeah, it's a very tight, sharp episode. I really like it.
Well, and I love the fact that when they do it's a complete recreation of a police station, I believe, sort of thing, and it even has a beginning title card or whatever that goes with it and things. So it just seems like we're stepping into a whole nother TV show or something, and I love that feel because that's sort of how it felt on the radio show when they would do a skit. And it's neat that they go full bore into a skit. They don't often do that. Usually it's a skit that's in Jack's house or something like that. They don't often sink themselves this much into something, which is great.
The Variety review is going to claim that this is actually a parody of something called Detective Story. Now, whether that was a movie or a TV series, I don't know, but it's So
well, go ahead and read some of the Variety.
Okay, well, it's great fun. In his opening monologue on last night's Lucky's visual display, Jack Benny told about the sponsor insisting that the middle commercial be made more important, as if to carry out the order with all the emphasis of a man with a mission. He piled it on and used his guest star, Humphrey Bogart, as the pigeon. From there, the program proceeded to satirize the hit play and film of 2 seasons back, Detective Story, with Benny, a detective lieutenant, and Bogart, a cat killer. Benny, in grilling the baddie, wrung from him the wanted confession that Luckies are his brand too. In fact, Bogart sang both figuratively and literally, including the sponsor's slogan. It was not one of Benny's better shows, and this seems a bit late to satirize Detective Story, even though it was not announced as such. Bob Crosby and John Wilson were cut in for brief sorties, Crosby womping up a big laugh when he likened the omission of his singing as keeping the smog and throwing away L.A. Benny liked the gag so well he repeated it. Sarah Berner, as a pickpocket, got her share of laughs with her nasal vocalizing, and Benny Rubin as Detective O'Brien broke up the audience with his small part. Benny used 2 of his old scripters on this outing, Hugh Wedlock and Howard Snyder, and while the gags were explosive, there weren't enough of them to maintain the usual Benny pace. Ow! So,
did Bosley Crowther write this review? What the heck?
Yeah, you think. No, it's the same guy who wrote the other one. So,
all right.
Let me jump on this really quick to say that I'm glad they mentioned Sarah Berner was on this episode. She does a fun job, and it's neat to see her live on television. And we heard her so often on his radio show, so she's a performer that is wonderful to see. I need to look her up at some point. I think we did at one point, and I think she's on a dozen episodes or something or less. I'm not sure, but anyway, it's just nice to point her out when she's on this one. And again, I think Crosby does a really nice job having Bob on here. Overall, throughout the whole episode, I think it's well written for him too. So I enjoyed all of it. Anything else anyone has to point out about this episode before we get into it? Go ahead.
Just one other thing that we've been talking about in these episodes. Jack says in his opening monologue that Mary was supposed to be on the show, but that didn't happen, so he's got Bogart instead. So again, I like these reminders that maybe back in these early days of the 50s, it's not all planned out in advance, and that they're still working up ideas from show to show to show, and so these little hints that they might have thought plan A was this, but we see plan B. So
yeah, has Mary even been on yet on the Jack Benny show at this point in time? I can't remember an episode that she was featured in.
No.
So I would think her first episode might just be the one with her daughter Joan later this season, right?
But also at this time, she's backing out of the radio show, right? So this is
she's
with
backing
Joan
out of everything. So.
That's her choice.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and eventually they'd realize, I think at this point, he's still trying to get her on the live shows because, of course, I don't think at this point they have any film shows. But then later on, they realize, okay, she's more comfortable in the film shows, so they only feature on the film shows eventually. Anyway, we will let that go, and I hope everybody enjoys this, and we'll see you guys next time for more Jack Benny. Nice job, Brady.
From Television City in Hollywood, we bring you the Jack Benny Show with his special guest, Humphrey Bogart, presented by Lucky Strike.
Thank you very, very much, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Lucky Strike program. You know, really, you'll have to excuse me for laughing, but I just spent the most wonderful half hour I've ever spent in my life. I was listening to my own radio show. And I don't know, I was so comical, you know. I said so many funny things. Oh, I know what you're thinking, you know, but I really believe that a man should be honest with himself. If there's anything I hate, is when a comedian is great and won't admit it. I've never met one like that, but if I did, I'd hate it. And one thing about me, lady, I'm honest. I really am. You know, if any other comedian has a bad show, I'm the first one to admit it. I talk about it all the time. But I have my faults. You know, I'm not perfect or anything. I'm too easygoing and I'm not overly ambitious. But then after all, I don't want to be the richest man in the world, you know. America's big enough for me. But, ladies and gentlemen, tonight, I announced 3 weeks ago that tonight Mary Livingston was going to be on my show, you see. But unfortunately, we had to postpone it because there was a big mix-up and everything. You see, when the producer asked Mary to be on my show, I told Mary to ask for a lot of money, you see. I forgot that I was paying for it. So, instead of Mary, tonight we have Humphrey Bogart as our guest star. And, really, I'm getting him fairly reasonably. You know how tough he is on the screen? You know what a tough guy knows nothing about business. Nothing at all. Well, anyway, this show that I'm going to do...
Jack!
What is it, Bob?
Jack, I want to talk to you a minute.
What is it?
Well, I just heard that you talked with the producer, and there's a possibility of my song being out of this show.
Yeah, well, look, Bob, the reason for that is, see, this show is very, very long, you see, and we had to make up our minds whether we take out your song or my jokes, you see, and then we thought we would do what was best for the show.
Oh, well, then my song is in.
No, Bob, we felt that it would be much more important, you see, to leave in my jokes.
You mean your jokes are more important than my song?
Yes. My jokes stay in and your song goes out.
Well, that's like keeping the smog and throwing away Los Angeles.
Well, keeping the smog and throwing away Los Angeles.
Pretty clever line, isn't it?
Yes.
What's in my next TV show? I'm on TV 5 times a week.
I thought you were tired. Let's see that. Now, look at Bob. Your song is out, and that settles it. You see, I'm running this show. I'm the boss. It's my show, and I'm running it, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent.
Well, that's what the critics said about your last show.
What?
Said Bob was good, Jack was bad, and the audience was indifferent.
Look, Bob, go and get ready for the play, will you?
All right.
I can't understand. He's the toughest guy to get along with. He's only been with me a short time, And the only reason I hired him at all was because I wanted him, I wanted him to introduce me to his brother Bing. Then I found out he didn't even know him. Well, anyway, as I said, the reason that I've got Humphrey Bogart on this show, I want to tell you about the play that I'm going to do with Humphrey Bogart, is because my sponsor called me yesterday, I believe it was, and my sponsor, he's an awfully nice fellow, and my sponsor told me that he had a feeling, he likes my shows. He likes my TV shows very, very much. But he had a feeling that I wasn't doing the integrated commercials. He said I wasn't making the middle commercials in the show important enough. And after all, my sponsor's paying the bills and everything, and he has the privilege of making suggestions, you see. Of course, I don't have to take the suggestions. No, I have the privilege of quitting. But I don't want to abuse the privilege. So tonight on this show, in case you notice that we stress the commercial, I'm doing it. I'm doing it because...
Jack, what's this I hear about you writing me out of the commercial on this show?
Well, Don, look at... Wait, am I going to have trouble with you, too?
You very well may.
Oh, I very well may. Well, Don, the reason you're not doing the commercial, see, is because I have another very important way of doing it.
Now, just a minute, Jack.
Yes?
What's more important about the commercial than the way I do it?
Look, Don, you don't fit into it this week.
No.
I mean, hurting the script for the sake of your commercial is like keeping the smog and throwing away Los Angeles. Excuse me.
Look, now, ladies, Jack, look, don't you know what my doing this commercial means to me? Now, after all, I'm not a funny man. I don't tell jokes. I'm not an actor. I don't sing songs. I don't lead a band. What are you paying me for?
Don, you're hanging yourself. We'll talk about it later, huh?
Oh, darn it!
The fellow been with me 20 years. I can't understand why I have so much trouble with everybody in my cast. But everybody. Always complaining, always unhappy. I don't know. Maybe if I gave them more money, that... Nah. Better they should be unhappy than me. But anyway, well, we've got to get on now with the show. Ladies and gentlemen, now tonight, we're going to offer a real dramatic play called Babyface, starring Humphrey Bogart. On with the show. This is the 24th Precinct Police Station, situated in the heart of New York's theatrical district. This is the detective squad room. Here crime, with its quick, easy promise, is shorn of its flimsy veneer and revealed in its sordid, squalid reality. To this room come people from all walks of life, the flotsam and the jetsam, the hoy and also the polloi. The man you see at the typewriter is Detective Sergeant Crosby. The man looking through the file, standing behind Crosby to his right, which would be to your left on the screen, or to your right, and his left, or, well, anyway, he's Detective Wilson. And he's to everybody's right and left. You can't miss it. The men who just came in are Detective O'Brien and a suspect he has just arrested.
Well, where'd you pick this one up, O'Brien?
I picked them up in an alley near You know what I've done? I caught him trying to start a fire in a warehouse.
He may be that firebug we've been looking for. Take him up and let the captain have a look at him.
God, get in there. Come on, get in there. O'Brien was an honest cop. We could tell that from the clothes he wore. Incidentally, my name is Lieutenant Benny. I should be arriving at the office any minute. Oh, here I come now. I took off my hat and coat. I hung them up on the hall tree. With Wilson and Crosby. I had heard a funny story last night, and I passed it on to the boys. Although I was a tough boss and a stickler for work, I had a lot of charm, and the boys loved me. I didn't see that. Hello? Precinct 24. Yeah? Detective Benny speaking. Just a minute. 385 Madison Avenue, eh? Window pried open. Uh-huh. Screen loose. No fingerprints. Must be the cat burglar, all right. We'll get him.
Oh, the cat burglar again, huh?
Yeah. It's The 15th cat he stole this week. Terrible.
My cat's afraid to go out at night.
I don't blame her.
Hey, Lieutenant. Here's Officer Sweeney's report. You know, he went over to Brooklyn to pick up that stripteaser.
The stripteaser, that was 4 days ago.
Yeah, I know, but Sweeney wants to make sure she's guilty before he brings her in.
I tried to arrest her myself, but I couldn't get anything on her. Better fix up these files. Well, Slim Finger Sarah.
I caught her over at the automat. She was lifting the nickels out of the slots.
She was. Again, eh? You can go, Burke. I'll take care of her. Come on.
Take your filthy hands off me.
Come on.
I said take your filthy hands off me.
All right. Don't holler. This ain't the first time you've been pinched.
You're telling me I'm black and blue all over.
Hey, Lieutenant, wasn't she in here about a month ago?
Yeah, she's the slickest pickpocket in the country. Operates all over town. Last time I arrested her was at the zoo.
The zoo?
Yeah. She picked a baby kangaroo out of its mother's pouch. What made you do a silly thing like that?
To me, a pocket is a pocket.
Now make it easy on yourself and sign that confession. Maybe I'll give you a break.
Oh, no, you don't. I ain't signing nothing till I talk to my lawyer. And besides, I'm entitled to make one phone call.
These crooks know their rights, all right. Go ahead.
Hello, Shirley? And this is Sarah. Yeah. And say, Shirley, will you do me a favor? Yeah, run across to my apartment, will you? The key is under the mat. Shirley, there's a pot roast on the stove in the kitchen. That's right. Just lower the gas under it, huh? Yeah, very low. I won't be home for 90 days.
Why didn't you call your lawyer?
You don't like pot roast.
All right, sit down. I'll take care of you later.
Though you may forgive me, you're still on my mind. Look over your shoulder, I'm walking behind.
My song they cut out.
Baby, that's new, but I shall wish again.
I was typing out a report on Slim Finger Sarah when the door opened. And there were Detective Simmons and Ross. They had brought in a vicious gunman, a killer named Babyface Bogart. I didn't mind the applause he got on his entrance, but I resented the fact that Crosby and Wilson joined in. It looked like this time we had Bogart dead to rights. According to Detective Simmons and Ross, a little crook named Blinky Mason had been shot to death. They'd picked up Bogart a few yards from the scene of the crime with a smoking .45 in his hand. Come over here. Sit down over there. All right, Babyface. Start talking. What do you know about Blinky Mason?
I tell you, I ain't never heard of no Blinky Mason. Who cares if he was raised in a tenement and his mother said he was a nice little boy? Or his teacher, a sweet gray-haired old lady, cried when he graduated. And his brother owns a owns a haberdashery store in Schenectady. I don't even know his girlfriend, a blonde dame that works in an aircraft factory. Or his boyhood chum that ran away from home and went to Australia.
Wait a minute, babyface. If you don't know Blinky Mason, how come you know so much about him?
I seen it on This Is Your Life.
What?
Gee, how I cried when they brought in a warden that he hadn't seen for 20 years.
The warden?
Yeah. Hey, you know, they flew that guy all the way out from Sing Sing by TWA.
Now, look, babyface. You killed Blinky Mason, I'm going to get a confession out of you.
Yeah, and how you going to do that? Beat me?
He very well may.
Yeah. When Mason was knocked off, you were standing there with a gun. And listen to this.
I'm walking behind you.
Turn that thing off. Now, what did you do with that gun?
Now, wait a minute, before you start any rough stuff. I'm entitled to one phone call, ain't I?
Well, yes.
Okay, give me a dime and I'll run down to the drugstore.
Oh, no, you don't. You'll make that phone call right here where I can keep my eye on you.
Yeah, and save a dime.
Yeah.
Hello, Shirley?
Shirley?
Yeah, well, listen. Listen, honey, this is Babyface. Yeah, well, I won't be home a little later. Oh, that's too bad. Now, what were we going to have for dinner, honey? Pot roast.
I could have told him that.
Like that dirty crook.
Yeah. Now, listen. Listen, Shirley, I want you to do something for me. You go in the living room and over by the fireplace, and inside of the fireplace, there's 2 loose boards. Now, listen. You lift up those boards and you stick your arm in, and inside there's a package. Yeah, well, that's my laundry. Yeah, listen, I want it back by Friday.
Why didn't you call your lawyer?
Because I don't like the way he does my shirts.
Now, look at here. You killed Blinky Mason, didn't you?
I didn't do it, and I got a witness.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Why don't one of you guys press it?
Time for lunch.
I'll go with you.
Oh, no, you don't. You're not going to leave me alone with this guy. Get over there and sit down. All right, babyface. You can start talking now. I want to hear about that witness. What about him?
Well, I don't know his name, but he was standing right alongside of me at the time of the murder.
Oh, he was, eh?
Yeah.
Uh-huh. What was he doing?
Well, he was just standing there. He had...
What did he look like?
Well, he was a curly-headed guy. He was about 5'10". He had a gray suit on and brown eyes.
Oh, yeah? What color hair?
He was bald.
Wait a minute, you said he was a curly-headed guy.
That's right, no hair, just a curly head.
I ain't buying that, babyface. Start singing.
I'm walking behind.
Not you! Let's get back to that witness again. What was he doing?
Well, he was holding a cigarette in his hand.
Yeah? What kind of a cigarette? I said what kind of a cigarette?
Well, he was, I ain't gonna talk.
I said what kind of a cigarette?
All right. It was a lucky strike.
Now we're getting somewhere. A lucky strike, eh? What made you think it was a lucky strike?
I ain't talking.
What made you think it was a lucky strike?
Because it was so round, so fine, so fully packed, so free and easy on the draw.
Can you remember that, Wilson?
Are you kidding?
One more question, babyface. What was he doing with that cigarette?
He was peeling it.
Peeling it, eh? How'd you know it wasn't a banana?
Because they let me taste it. It was a lucky strike, all right, because luckies taste better, fresher, fresher, smoother. Lucky strike, lucky strike.
All right. What else?
Nothing.
What?
Nothing.
What?
Nothing. No nothing. Beats better taste.
I knew we'd get him to talk. Lock him up, fellas.
All right. All right, get him up. Get over there, you two. I swore to get you, Benny.
Why?
Because you never leave me alone, because you've been hounding me, just because I pulled a couple of lousy murders.
What? Well, what are you going to do?
I'm going to put a red eye between them two blue ones.
Where'd you get the gun?
You didn't frisk me so good when I came in, did you?
No. No, when I put my hand in your pocket, I found a dollar bill. I got so excited I didn't look at it. Look at babyface. Look at, I'm not mad at you or anything. Look at, I don't want to die. Look, I'm too young to die. Honest I am. I'm a nice guy. I'll leave you alone. Everybody loves me. Everybody. You love me, don't you, fellas?
All right, copper, start praying. I'm going to let you have it.
Oh, yeah? I know your type, babyface. You're all alike. You're pretty brave with that gun in your hand, ain't you? Throw that gun away, I'll show you a coward.
Okay. How about that? Come on, Sarah, let's go get that pot roast. Be my guest.
I'm walking behind you.
Just a moment with his special guest, Humphrey Bogart. But first, a word from Dorothy Collins.
Smoking enjoyment is all a matter of taste. And the fact of the matter is, Lucky's taste better.
Cleaner, fresher, smoother.
Lucky's taste better.
Cleaner, fresher, smoother. For Lucky's strike means fine tobacco, richer tasting fine tobacco.
Lucky's taste better.
Cleaner, fresher, smoother. Lucky Strike, Lucky Strike.
Sure, Lucky's taste better. Everybody knows Lucky Strike means fine tobacco. Fine, light, mild tobacco that just naturally tastes better. And Lucky's are made better. They're round and firm and fully packed to draw freely and smoke evenly. With fine tobacco in a better-made cigarette, golly, you're just bound to get better taste. Smoking enjoyment is all a matter of taste, you know. And the fact of the matter is, Lucky's taste better.
Cleaner, fresher, smoother. Lucky Strike, Lucky Strike.
When the sketch was over, I found that I had enjoyed it even more than my radio show. I was laughing so much I could hardly thank Humphrey Bogart for helping me give such a great performance. Bogey told me that he thought he had handled his role extremely well. He believes in being honest with himself, too. Then he told me about his new picture, Beat the Devil, with Jennifer Jones. Then I told him about the last picture I made. I almost forgot to tell the audience that I'll be doing my next television show in 3 weeks. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. I'll be with you 3 weeks from today. And I believe, I'm pretty sure my guest star is going to be Johnny Ray. You see, I feel that I'm responsible for Johnny Ray's success. Because when I offered him a job a long time ago, he asked me for an awful lot of money, and I cried. And then he stole that from me. So he's going to be my guest. Thank you very much.
Tonight's program were Sarah Berner and Benny Rubin. Remember, 1 week from tonight on this same station, Ann Southern returns in Private Secretary. The Jack Benny program has been brought to you by Lucky Strike, product of the American Tobacco Company, America's leading manufacturer of cigarettes. This is Don Wilson saying, be happy, go lucky.